the heart of Dixie where the eagles fly, land of the brave where the bullets don't lie. We fought for our freedom with guns by our side. Red, white, and blue, our southern pride. Raise the flag high, let freedom ring from the rolling mountains to the flatlands. We sing, no one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free. With guns in our hands, we'll forever be. Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome into the Gun Club. We've got an interesting story tonight, and there's sort of an attachment to it because this is one of the greatest examples of gun control fallacies or poor logic or defective logic on the part of the anti-gunners or gun grabbers or whatever you want to call them. And tonight, I decided to do this one out. We're actually live tonight, not only in the Rumble Room, we are also live on YouTube and live on the Gun Club Locals private channel, just because of the fact I wanted to get this message out and I want it to be saved on Locals for posterity going forward. Yes, the incident is a simple one. It's a typical one. It's the type of thing that we tragically see periodically happen out and around. And, well, just so happens that life happens. But on the other side of that coin, yes, we're going to see it today. And we're going to see it jumping out in there. And definitely a great example of some of the stupidity, and I don't even say stupidity, dishonesty perhaps, on the part of the anti-gun, anti-freedom side of the argument. We know that they will take anything they can, whether it makes sense or not, and try to somehow use it to advance their cause. What's the old saying? Never let a tragedy go to waste. Well, amazingly, they have a tragedy that results in the death of 3 young people and maybe 15 more wounded. And what do? They immediately, within 24 hours of the event, in the most callous way possible, stand up on the bodies of the deceased to say, well, you know what? If you had passed my anti-gun measure, this wouldn't have happened. Really? And then we look at the anti-gun measure, and it's totally unrelated. And I'm going to show you how they do this, and it makes sense if we sort of look at it in a vacuum or look at it in a different context. We'll say, okay, I worked last night. Well, okay, I worked last night on the overnight shift. Simple enough. That's a fact. And I ended up grabbing breakfast at the Waffle House at about 5-something this morning. That's fact. So if I put that together as a sentence, well, I worked last night and I ended up grabbing breakfast at the Waffle House at 5-something this morning. Seems that those two are somehow related. Would be. Okay. But if we say, well, I drive a white truck, and I'm not wearing socks right now. I'm not. Okay. Now, the fact that I drive a white truck, and I presented that in one sentence. I sort of married those phrases together to almost make it sound like one is somehow related to the other. But if you think slowly and logically about it, okay, 2 phrases that really don't make sense. If I said, I worked last night and I came home and grabbed a nap today, makes sense. If we say, I worked last night and I'm off tomorrow, would make sense. But if I said, oh, I worked last night and I am drinking Mountain Dew, would I be drinking Mountain Dew anyway? Yes. would me working last night have anything to do with it? And again, it shows one of the great fallacies, because typically what will happen is anti-gun media, they're good at this. Anti-gun politicians, they're good at this, or their people are. They'll take a tragedy and try to somehow marry it in to them either not getting what they want, or we're not getting enough support for gun control and this shooting happened. Would that have anything to do with each other? You know, and then they'll go through and they'll use these fallacies to try to drum up support or votes or whatever for their latest crazy, unconstitutional, freedom grabbing gun. Um, it's even beyond correlation, because a lot of times the facts don't even correlate. Again, if we go back to, I drive a white truck and I'm not wearing socks right now, they may be both independently legitimate facts, but they're not correlated at all. One has no relation to the other. But they'll take two things that are related, sometimes in time, they're close in proximity to time, or they'll take two things in the same state or jurisdiction, and they use it to try to push their agenda, to try to lean on everybody to fix everything. And you know what? Every time they come out with that, if you just pass this one more thing, we need this bill to fix this problem. Let's stop and look and see how it fixes the problem. Oh, wait, it doesn't even address it. Well, then why are you pushing this? Why? Because it's the latest, greatest talking point or gun control agenda item. So, folks, welcome aboard. We're going to dig into this. We're going to have a few laughs tonight. It's definitely fun. I see we've already got Mr. Scott Awesome in the chat. I'm sorry, there's so many people streaming tonight. I actually started working on this one the other day and had, a lot of time in on it. And I saw 2 or 3 people going live at the same time. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll just have to get people on the replay gang. But I thank you for being here, sir. I see Minnie is always in the chat. Great to see her come bouncing in. She's wandering on in. Yep, correlation definitely does not equal causation. And I don't know, Mary may come wandering in the chat shortly. She's typically somewhere out in the boonies of the YouTube algorithm, but she does good. And I want to thank everybody, because we have been getting much better numbers recently. And the more our numbers go up, the more shows we're going to do, the more material I can cover, because, it does sort of inspire me when I see great numbers. Beyond that, please do your best. Give us a thumbs up. Follow us out. Send the information out to people, because you know what? The more we can get people to understand some of the fallacies, didn't say fallacies, sorry, Minnie, that the anti-gunners use, or the gun control lobby, or, that whole little group of individuals over there, you know what? The more we get people to see through their lies and their poor logic, the easier it's going to be for us to keep our freedoms, and the harder the uphill battle is for them to come in and nitpick us, to go after us for magazines, or to go after us for assault weapons, whatever those may be. I had a great chat yesterday, and it was very funny, is with someone I happened to work with, and we got talking about assault weapons. And I was telling her that I was doing a show tonight and we were going to be talking about this stuff. And, we got talking about what is an assault weapon. And, again, intelligent lady. And she said, well, I know assault weapons. And I said, yeah, guess what? There's not really any such thing as an assault weapon unless you get into like the military grade stuff. But we got talking about, a military grade Jeep, and the Jeep that she can go down to the local dealership and buy and paint it olive green and put a big star on the hood. That they may look similar and they may be the same color, but they ain't the same vehicle. And then I jokingly pulled the walkie-talkie, the radio, off my hip, and I said, I have a question for you. If I bonk you on the head with this radio, would that make this an assault radio? I mean, it's black, it's got a lot of plastic on it. This could be an assault radio. And she started laughing, and I'm like, honestly, assault weapons that they talk about, are not what we use. And I told her, I said, yeah, we need to go out to the range and we need to play with an AR or two. And she said it sounded like fun. So I'm going to try to drag some more people out to the range and do some AR stuff. Oh, Mr. Scott, it's going to be outdoor time soon, I hope. Um, we've got 1 or 2 outdoor ranges here I go to pretty regularly, but unfortunately, the new outdoor range that I loved so much last year that I really wanted to do a bunch of shooting at and was going to do a bunch of filming at, he closed after the storm that came through in October. I'm not sure what happened. I went by and the place was for sale. No, Minnie, I'm not buying it. I've got enough on my plate right now, you know. Or I tell you what, I'll buy it, but I'd have to pay someone to run it. You got the money to do that? I don't this week. I'd end up having to pick up overtime just to support my gun habit. I mean, more than I do now, but be that as it may. So let's dig into this little incident that happened out in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Now, the incident happened on Friday night in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and it was, a mass shooting event. Okay. They ended up about 10 o'clock, 10:15, called to law enforcement, shots fired at a local park. By the end of it, it was 3 deceased, 2 of them on the scene, 1 of them at the ER, and they were 15, 18, and 19 years old, all male. That sucks. 3 young people, all under age 20, lost their life out at this mass shooting event. The media came out and said there was like 15 wounded between age 16 and 36. And the media talked about it and say it took place at, and again, this is where we start getting into media spin and choosing our words very carefully, and they're so good at it, at what was described as an unsanctioned car show. Okay. And they said it started as just a verbal argument and escalated to murder. Okay. A verbal argument escalated to murder at a car show. That type of thing makes it sound to John Q and Susie Q Normie that it's just people going crazy and shooting up everything. But some video came out, and then one person had video, and it said there was someone out there with an AR-15, one of those big scary ARs. And Minnie Mouse, I know you're scared of ARs. I know that you're absolutely scared of those big black guns, which is why you want to build yourself one in purple and pink. Okay, those ARs aren't that scary. But anyway, so, there was someone out there with an AR and there was a mass shooting. And the media is like, oh, wow, here we go. It's Christmas morning. We've got anti-gun stuff to spread and vomit all over the place. But wait a minute. Does it make any sense? We'll dig in a little further. Yeah, I hear you, terrified. Absolutely scared to death of them. Yeah, they're so mean. Well, this unsanctioned car show, I've got some video from it and we've got some pictures. And again, it started as just an argument between, verbal argument. Then it comes out, it's an argument between 2 groups of people. Now, if you were talking about a group of people, 2 groups of people who apparently had history and didn't get along with each other, and let's say these groups were predominantly young males, what would another, way to describe this possibly more accurate way? Anybody ever see a movie called West Side Story? Okay, they weren't having a dance off, but this has all the markings of 2 gangs met and did this. Oh, and the unsanctioned car show. Yeah, let me pull that up and give you a quick look at the unsanctioned car show, because again, you watch the way they describe it, and it's like, yes, this definitely looks like an unsanctioned car show. I mean, I have not seen a car show like this in a while, but we're going to go ahead and throw this one up. Yeah, like I said, this ain't like the West Side Story, and the Jets ain't here for this one, Minnie. I wish they were. But yeah, this is, to me, absolutely straight out, you know, tells me everything looks a little bit more gang related. Yeah, just a wee bit. Check this out.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Hey, nigga, they have a gun. Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh shit! Oh, what the?
Yeah, that was just an unsanctioned car show. This was a street takeover. This happened, yes, it was in a parking lot of a park. You've got 200 plus people on scene, according to law enforcement. You've got this going on 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and two groups of people had beef between each other and gunfire rang out. Now this looks a lot different on paper than the well, there was a verbal argument that just escalated to gunfire and murder. It's just a car show. Just a group of youths. Yes. And the interesting part, and where this gets even crazier, is they come back with some of this stuff and they talk about some of the solutions that they have for it. And when we read the article, it gets really interesting because the article about it really comes through. And this is, I'm going to pull the USA Today because they're pretty middle of the road. And it sort of gives us a little bit of a different idea. Now, this happened 10 o'clock on a Friday night. And by 4 o'clock on Saturday, they had 4 in custody for it. Yeah, it just happened that way. Yeah. We actually had 3 youths get deceased, and then we've got some youths going to jail. So when we look at this, and I'm going to read off the USA Today article, and again, we're just going to hit the high points. Las Cruces police have arrested 4 suspects in connection with a mass shooting. Got to use that term. Yeah, not a gang fight. That killed 3 people and wounded 15 others at a car meetup at Young's Park. 10:30 on a Friday night, acting like that. It was just a car meetup. Yeah, it was a street takeover. But they're going to sanitize that. And there's their sanitized language. And they named the shooter so-and-so, 20 years old. Keep a pin in that one for later. We're going to cut back to that. 2 17-year-olds and a 15-year-old were each arrested on 3 counts of murder with additional charges pending. The 15-year-old was arrested Sunday. The second 17-year-old was arrested Sunday. And the 20-year-old and the first teenager were arrested Saturday afternoon. So yeah, 4 in custody. The chaotic shooting erupted about 10 p.m. Friday during an altercation between 2 groups at an unsanctioned car show attended by about 200 people in the parking lot of Young Park on Walnut Street. Okay, now let's go on. Investigators found 40 to 60 bullet casings at the scene, police said. The 20-year-old is jailed without bond at such and such detention center. The teen suspects, whose names are not disclosed, have been taken to a juvenile detention facility. The DA said this and this and this, and then they start talking about the victims and the people who were killed. And wasn't that tragic? Yeah, and then we have to come into the governor's statement. Now, the governor of New Mexico, you may remember her. Her name is Michelle Lujan Grisham. Now, Michelle Lujan Grisham, if you think back to, fall of 2023, Michelle was a big star here on the channel. We had her on several times. Why? Well, as the governor of New Mexico in September of 2023, she declared that her her authority, she actually does kind of look like she's got some Cartman in her. I wonder if she's descended from Eric Cartman. Anyway, that she could summarily, just by the stroke of a pen, declare firearms to be a health emergency and thus take away the Second Amendment in a county and a city, Bernalillo County, as well as the city of Albuquerque, which is in that county. She announced that, effective tomorrow at midnight for at least 30 days, the Second Amendment didn't count in that county, Bernalillo County, or Albuquerque, New Mexico, because she said so. And as the governor of the state, she had that right. Now, she made this announcement at a press conference with a table of law enforcement officers there. Bernalillo County Sheriff, Albuquerque Police Chief, a couple of other state-level law enforcement. And you could see as she made this announcement, these guys are like, can we do that? During that time, it didn't matter whether you had a state-issued permit or anything or not. Anybody besides sworn law enforcement officer could not carry a gun, open or concealed, permits or otherwise. She said so. Because, the Second Amendment's not absolute. I'm Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. And quite frankly, it sort of cost her a lot politically. Also, the funny part was, I think every one of our major gun rights organizations, the folks over at GOA, Gun Owners of America, GOF, the Gun Owners Foundation, NAGR, the National Association for Gun Rights, SAF, the Second Amendment Foundation, all the really active ones. I think even the NRA wanted in on this one. The laser printer started going absolutely wacko with lawsuits. Because you know what? If you're going to come right out and say it in public that you don't care what the Second Amendment says, yeah, lawsuit printers go word. Yeah. Actually, I will agree with you, Minnie, but unfortunately, Lujan, she wasn't going to do that. She was the governor. It's her authority. It's her power. Yeah. Tyrannical. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to be good. I'm really trying to be good tonight, but she gets my anger up. She really does. So let's talk about her for a second. It got so bad at that time. She's the governor. And like 2 days later, the sheriff, and I'm sure he contacted his county attorneys and the people in his county and his upper management and his county administration. And it's like, I don't think we can do this. This is, dude, if we try to do this, we're going to be tied up in court forever. They're going to sue the Jesus out of us. And again, she's like sitting there proudly announcing that it's her authority to do it. And F the Second Amendment, basically, for lack of a better term. And I want to show the press conference where I gave him big props because he came out and he's like, yeah, well, gun violence is a concern. We're not like doing what we're not going to do that. And then she said, well, that's fine. If the sheriff's department and the city police pretty much got together and said they're not going to do it, she came up with an idea. She was going to use her Albuquerque, New Mexico State Police and flood them into these areas. Not to deal with juvenile crime or car takeovers or any of that, no. She was going to use them in there to start basically enforcing her anti-Second Amendment laws. Yeah, the courts blew her out. It was great. I mean, honestly, she got blown out more than a $5 hooker in Fleet Week. And it was great to watch. And it was at the national level of, no, you can't do this. And it was also a little note to 49 other governors, or at least any of them that may decide to do anything really stupid like that. Don't even think about it. So check this out. This is the press conference. And again, I have nothing but big props for this sheriff. He did 100% right in my book. The bottom line is, he, as a chief law enforcement officer, has to know in his mind, okay, while we're trying to achieve a noble end goal, you can't, the end doesn't justify the means. I mean, let's face it, if the end justified the means, we just suspend, all sorts of civil rights and go out and violate them just because we could. And here's, again, the Bernalillo County Sheriff. Check him out.
Clear. I hold my standards high, and I do not or never will hedge on what is right. And I take my oath seriously. In reference to concealed carry and open carry, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order. While I understand the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do. The governor made it clear in her press conference. She knew we as law enforcement did not agree with the order, and as a result, this was solely her decision. Other than this ban being unconstitutional, here are other reasons why I will not enforce the order. One, what many forget, is I have enough violence here in Bernalillo County. I do not want to have political violence towards my deputies or here in Bernalillo County. My job is to keep the peace and to make sure that the citizens of Bernalillo County are safe, and I do not believe that this order will help me do so. I'm a law enforcement professional. This order will not do anything to curb gun violence other than punish law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. Let me give you a personal story. Last week, as I'm sitting here as the sitting sheriff, I get a phone call that my brother also was a victim of gun violence last week that many of you do not know. While he and my nephew were sitting in their car, they were shot at and their vehicle was impacted by numerous rounds. How can I, as a sheriff, tell him to put his firearms away and not be able to protect himself? I have a fact for you. Criminals do not follow the law or a public health order. Never seen it, we will never see criminals follow the law. Once again, this only punishes law-abiding citizens. Clear. I hold my standards high, and I do not or never will hedge on what is right. And I take my oath seriously. In reference to concealed carry and open carry, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order. While I understand the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do. The governor made it clear.
You just gotta love that. You just gotta love that. Well played, Sheriff. Very well played. You're doing the right thing. That was back in September 2023 when Michelle Grisham comes out and says, I'm going to issue this public health order, no guns. What did the sheriff say? This is a law enforcement professional. Criminals won't obey the law. They never will. She comes out with a statement after this tragedy, and yes, it's right in the follow-up of it. And it was interesting because there had been an assault weapons ban brought up in the state legislature that died a horrible, languishing death in committee at 5 o'clock that day. And at 10 o'clock, they had the shooting. And they were going to ban assault weapons. Okay. Well, she comes out with a statement. There has been a disturbing rise in violent crime in Las Cruces, including the stabbing death. Stabbing? Now, this is the statement about the shooting. Including the stabbing death of Las Cruces police officer Jonah Hernandez by a mentally ill homeless man with a kitchen knife during a trespassing call at a business last year. Okay. Violent crime She's in an article about this shooting. Her statement talks about the rise in violent crime, including, well, she's going to use the cop who got stabbed or the cop who got attacked. But it was a stabbing. Wouldn't have anything to do with her assault weapons ban, wouldn't have anything to do with the shooting. But she's going to use that fallacy to connect it all, to roll it all up in one little anti-gun ball. This is not merely a statistic. These are our neighbors, our children. Think of the children. Our future, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said. Okay. So, stabbing of a police officer. Yes, there's a rise in violent crime. A police officer got stabbed. That's bad. We know that's a bad thing. Think of the children. Oh, another tug at our emotional heartstrings. Was the officer getting stabbed in any way connected to this shooting at this park? No. I dug in further to the stabbing of Officer Jonah Hernandez by the mentally ill homeless man with a kitchen knife to try to see if I could somehow bring it back into the gun world and the gun club, we do call it that. The attacker, the assailant who tragically stabbed Officer Hernandez, was fatally shot by a civilian who witnessed the attack. You mean a good guy or girl with a gun came to the aid of a police officer who was being attacked by a mentally ill, homeless man with a knife, and she uses that case to say we need more gun control. Michelle, are you dumber than you look? You gotta be. This, again, she takes a case of a knife-wielding homeless dude. We could talk about the mentally ill problem. We could talk about the homeless problem. We could talk about the homeless walking around with kitchen knives. That's a bad thing, especially if they're using them to defend themselves. I kind of get it. But if they're stabbing cops with them, no. No stabby the popo. Oh, sorry, don't do that. That's bad. But then it turns out that the man who's attacking the cop with a kitchen knife gets shot by a good guy with a gun. This should have been a medal on the City Hall steps. This should have been thank you for backing up our officer. We need more good guys and good gals with guns. Because if some mentally ill homeless man tries to go stabby on the popo, the fact that he got his birth certificate revoked, kind of a good thing, I'm guessing. Yes, Mel, make it all make sense. And they can't. And that's again, one of these great fallacies. Now, I know what you're thinking. All the ladies in the chat saying, yes, we all appreciate a good fallacy. Anyway, make it all make sense. Because you just can't. Now, we're going to dig a little further into this mass shooting with an AR-15 because everybody comes out and had pictures. Yes, they had pictures. They got very gung-ho to do pictures and pictures of this awful person with this AR-15 because this is so awful, so bad. Somebody had an AR. Yeah, we're going to dig in a little further to this whole AR narrative because it gets kind of fun. Yeah. Here is our young gentleman with his AR-15. Check a look at this and tell me if you notice anything about this youth with this AR-15. That is very much at low ready, or at high ready, excuse me. His finger is clear of the trigger, and he is looking downrange, trying to see what's going on. Do we think he's potentially a bad guy or a good guy? I'd be willing to bet he's not a bad guy. And I know a little bit more, and we're going down this road. Of the 40 to 60 shells they found expended at the scene, guess how many came from an AR? Because you see, when you fire these things, the empty shell casings, well, they hang out on the scene. And AR-15s use ammunition that looks something like this. And this gray part would be the shell casing that's expended and left on the scene. If you're shooting handguns, the ammunition would look something like this, a 9mm round. And the shell casing would look something like the brass part there. So it's very easy on the scene for even Ronnie the Rookie Popo, who just got out of the academy or just got off meter maid detail, to look and see, do I have a bunch of these or a bunch of these on scene, and determine if it was handgun fire or AR fire. Would you believe that all reports from every article I've written or read, 0 AR rounds discharged on scene, 0 AR casings found on the scene? So somebody, again, appears to be rather professionally, and I say professionally as in someone's had some training. This wasn't something he built in his basement last week. Has broke out an AR and has deployed it, has not fired a single round, no evidence whatsoever of a single AR round being fired. Now, so does that mean that there were 0 assault rifles involved in this shooting? Yep. Now, why would he break out an AR? What's he doing? Well, there's some thoughts I have, and this comes from personal experience. Yeah, depending where I'm at, what I'm doing, who I'm with, largely, if I happen to be, now, in this day of my life, this stage of my life, I probably wouldn't be at this. But let's go back 30 years ago and say that me and my buddy, Tommy, were going out to hang out somewhere, and one or both of us may have an AR in the back of our vehicles. And I also have a med kit in my vehicle. And all of a sudden, we hear shots going off. Likely, especially if they're all coming from one direction, we're going to do what we can to A, put some decent metal between us and whatever else is going on, preferably an engine block. And we're going to be looking downrange, trying to see what's going on. Chances are, if we decide to move towards it, if there is someone down, I'm probably going to end up doing emergency care. I might have a little training in that. And chances are, if I have to come out from behind my cover or my concealment to work on somebody, my brother Tommy, or any of the people who I've worked with in other lifetimes, they're going to be standing overwatch with an AR, because if someone does try to pop up and take a pot shot at me, the threat's going to get neutralized. That's how I can focus on working on this person, because I know my brother behind me has got my back, and I just need, if shots ring out, I need to stay low, because he'll put them over my head, and he'll take out the threat on me. That's kind of how it works. So yeah, this guy, very disciplined, standing there. He's not spraying and praying. He's not dumping 40 rounds. He's got a nice 30-round mag there, looks to be fully loaded up. And while he's not kitted up, he may well have had in his vehicle that rifle, and he may well be trying to assess the scene and see, do I see one of these shooters that I can engage with and put one of them down? They've so far found 4 handguns ditched in a dumpster on the scene. You know, we don't know the origin of the handguns yet. Again, this is Friday, so we're doing this hot off the presses. There'll probably be a follow-up down the line. But what we do know is the AR, that one or any other ARs that happen to be out there, because there was rumors of multiple, none of them seem to be fired. So the assault weapons ban that died, first of all, it died 5 hours earlier. Even if it had gone through, would it have done anything for the pistols? No. Would the assault weapons ban have affected the 20-year-old, the two 17-year-olds, the 15-year-old? Wait a minute, they're already not supposed to be carrying guns. Time out. I'm missing something here. Putting one more law in place, it would have affected that good guy. It would not have affected the shooters. There is the great logical fallacy of all of it. Because you know what? They want to sit there and say, oh, we can't get support for our gun control measures. Well, would your gun control measure have done a damn bit of good? Well, no, but that doesn't mean anything. Stop, Michelle. Stop. You're making a fool of yourself, sunshine. But she went on, and in one of the media appearances, it was just such a ridiculous joke because she said, this just does not, we had an anti-gun, let's see here. She's now stating she's going to call the legislature back for a special session to address what she calls the crime crisis. They need to do more to find solutions to juvenile crime, okay? How about holding some degree of accountability, gun violence, and their root causes? Newsflash, the root cause is that these groups of youths who all hang out together and beef with one another are let to run wild and free. And if anyone does anything, we hear about what poor little baby angel got arrested. How about this one? You're 15, you're 17, you get caught with a pistola out carrying it. Guess what? How about we hook you up until you're 21? Not we go to juvie. We'll give them a stern talking to about their gang ways, and they laugh it off and they go get another one. She states she was heartbroken and horrified. My heart goes out to the victims and the entire Las Cruces community during this unimaginably violent time. Okay, that's great. Lujan, let's look a little further, because you have to realize you got to get to like page 6 of the website. And then you find out a little bit more about at least the 20-year-old. Yes, here is the 20-year-old Ute who has been arrested. And again, he's innocent until proven guilty, and I'll give him that. But for now, what do we think this 20-year-old looks like? Do you want to say he looks like me and is a GOA member or life member of the Second Amendment Foundation? Or do we think he looks like a gangbanger? Interesting. Oh, by the way, this same poor, young, unfortunate man has arrests in January 2024. 4 counts of trafficking immigrants and 1 count of eluding law enforcement. He has a previous arrest prior to that, dating back to 2021 when he was 17 and arrested for transporting an illegal immigrant. These past and pending charges are now part of the evidence they're using to keep him held on no bond. Kind of interesting. Do we think maybe if at some point someone when he was 17 when he was 18, 19, had given him some consequences for his actions and tried to kick him back on the straight and narrow, we might not have had this shooting. It's interesting because you sit and say, yeah, authorities reported one teen sought refuge in a nearby apartment where a resident later found another gun that belonged to him. So, dumping guns, 4 handguns in a dumpster, all recovered, and we'll find out where they came from. Chances are stolen, black market, whatever. I'm guessing none of the 15 and 17-year-olds went through a NICS background check. We need better background checks. Trust me, they ain't buying them at Academy Sports, folks. Well, we need more vetting we need mental health. We need red flag laws. Yeah. Would you have red flagged a 17-year-old, Your Honor? Or a 15-year-old? Well, no, they can't own a gun. Every time they come up with the quick fix for gun violence. No. How about we quick fix violence? And that will take care of the problem. But it's easy to go after the guns because they really don't do anything. They sit there and behave themselves. Unlike, unfortunately, these youths. Let's see here. All juveniles booked in. Again, the shooting, which shook the community, follows years of concerns about youth involvement in criminal smuggling operations along the El Paso corridor. Law enforcement and school officials have long observed how teenagers in the borderland are recruited into these networks. Now, I've heard of doing some professional networking, and I mean, Mel, your husband does like network administration. I don't think we're talking the same network. Federal agencies like the Border Patrol have been working for a decade with local schools in an attempt to deal with this recruitment. Court filings indicate that this 20-year-old, and I'm not going to throw his name out there, may have been involved in such a smuggling network. As of Monday, prosecutors filed a motion for pretrial detention. His attorney told the Journal he expected the hearing to be scheduled. Attorneys have also been appointed to represent the juveniles. Okay. Meanwhile, despite repeated concerns from law enforcement prosecutors about rising juvenile violence, Democrat lawmakers in New Mexico House declined to advance legislation during the 60-day session that would have strengthened penalties or accountability for violent juvenile offenders. We're calling it a special session for gun violence, and yes, they've just defeated measures that would have strengthened penalties and accountability for violent juvenile offenders. We can't go after the violent people. Why would we do that? We'll go after the guns. The guns are bad, not the violent people. It must have been a gun that stabbed that police officer, not a violent person. Make it make sense, folks. Yes, exactly, Mel. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is so far the latest update on Las Cruces. But it's so fun to watch. Again, when I saw it was New Mexico, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what crazy lady comes out with on this one. Because she's going to blame the pistolas, no doubt in my mind. On the other side of that coin, yeah, she definitely not the smartest you'd ever come up with. And I'm waiting to hear her more about this. So far, 5 semi-automatic handguns. But the original article Friday night and all day Saturday was there were people out there with ARs. Yeah, probably good guys, truth be told. He's carrying it professionally. He's acting his demeanor is very professional. And again, if I was in that, area and I was going to have to go out from beyond cover or concealment into where I needed to work on someone, I can guarantee you, if I was with several of the people I used to work with, we'd have had one or two of them up, ready to cover. Why? It's the way you do it. And yes, several people did end up rendering aid on scene. Again, I don't know. Maybe that kid's got no training whatsoever, and he's just watched a lot of videos on here about how to hold an AR, how to handle it. But it's real interesting where he comes up with that thing, and he's looking down range. Yeah. Is he got people behind him? Has he decided at that moment, and again, not knowing where he was or having a map of it, has he decided that, look, all the shooting's going that way, all the people are running that way, and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to take a position to contain? Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame that assault weapons ban died 5 hours earlier. Shame we can't disarm him because, we need to make him defenseless. That AR, never used, but had the bad guys run that direction, had someone started shooting that direction, that AR may have been what could have stopped the fight. That was likely a good guy with a gun. But, alrighty. That is all I've got on that, and I wanted to cover it because to me it was just, again, New Mexico, I get to pick on Michelle Grisham again, always good. Yes, they'll avoid the word gang like it's the plague. I understand. Yes. These local networks of smuggling. Okay, you've got a 15, 2 17s, and a 20 in a smuggling network. Yeah. How do these youth organizations raise money? I promise you, Ding Dong ain't selling cookies outside the Wally World. I promise you, they ain't going door to door selling gift wrap and popcorn. Yeah. So that's that. Now, I've got one other big story I want to hit on, and this is, quite frankly, another screeching kick in the crotch to our friends over at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. As you all may have known, the continuing resolution was passed about a week and a half ago. Now, the continuing resolution basically is saying we haven't passed the budget yet, but we need to kind of keep the government open. So we will pass a resolution to continue funding at the previously established levels. But the way this one was passed was slightly different, and it means a big deal to us in a good way. The continuing resolution was passed as what's basically an open continuing resolution. Now, where typically a continuing resolution says we're going to keep doing what we've always been doing and we're going to keep funding going at the previously approved levels, this one did not really specify as far as the levels. They did it department by department instead of line item by line item. The reason they did that, and I'll try to explain how this is. We have, say, the Department of Justice, and underneath that, we've got a bunch of ABC organizations. We got the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, the Bureau of Prisons, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Office of Justice Programs. Instead of specifying continuing each agency at their old level, they just said they're going to continue the funding for the DOJ and all their agencies at the DOJ without specifying out the line items. Does it really make a difference? Ooh, yes, it does. This open freedom within the DOJ to determine how the money is allocated within their agency allows the head of the Department of Justice, AG Pamela Bondi, to determine how the money is going to be allocated. So let's say, instead of it being line item by line item, she's just got the big bulk and she's going to decide how it's handed out. Okay. Your family, you've got 4 people in your family. You get $400. If it's specified you have to give each person $100, okay. If it's just you've got the $400, divvy it out how you see fit. You can give, a little bit more money to your friends over at the FBI, but you just have to give less somewhere else, say the ATF. And you can give more money to the U.S. Marshal Service to go out and get criminals. And we'll take that out of the ATF budget too. So the ATF's budget right now and their funding lies solely in the hands of AG Pamela Bondi. And we know she's not doing real well with them these days. There's not a lot of love there. She has pretty much the option right now to starve them for funding. Now, I don't think she's going to starve them out completely, but if everybody was supposed to get 100 and you think all 4 agencies are all going to get 100, those 4 people at the table divvying this $400 up, and they end up getting 25, and someone ends up getting a 175 out of the deal, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. The ATF may be having a really, really rough next 6 months because their money is now dependent on what Pam says they need. And that, of course, goes to our next story. We know since the AG is over all these agencies, she can do other things. She's got Kash Patel, the FBI director, who's also the acting ATF director. He's come out with a plan. Now, the ATF has about 5,000 employees and 2,600 sworn agents. He's planning to move as many as 1,000 of them over to the FBI. Of their 2,600 agents, he's planning on pulling up to 1,000 of them over to the FBI. Now, it's not a permanent reassignment. It's just, quote unquote, and this was great from the ATF spokeswoman, Ashley Sherrill. Got to give her this one. She spun it really well. They are, and I quote, not being reassigned to the FBI, but being temporarily assigned. So they're not being reassigned to the FBI. They're just being temporarily assigned to the FBI until an unknown date. They're going to be supporting the Surge Initiative for Border Management, and at least a couple of hundred of them will be flat out border-related duty. Well, again, they're pulling sworn agents over to another priority, totally legit. And what does this mean? Well, whereas when I woke up this morning, there were about 2,600, we woke up last week, say, there are about 2,600 agents that could do stuff like, Brian Malinowski and Chopper Manley and, honestly, there are dogs everywhere that are safer when this happens. House pets everywhere are safer, and we're safer because the ATF's overzealous raid antics, they're now going out of their offices temporarily assigned to go play border cop. And so not only will this help deal with border trafficking, I mean, remember, Tom Holman's still looking for 300,000 missing kids. So that's a big priority. And we're going to start giving the FBI and the border people some of these resources, some of this manpower, and your dogs should sleep better because of it. That is a definite white bill for me because, again, I'm not wanting anyone to get laid off, and I know there are decent officers and agents at all these agencies. I'm not going to say that they're all lousy, but on the other side of that coin, folks, this one can be a biggie. It really is. So, and their budget now, I guess their operational budget, it can kind of be tailor-made as Madam Bondi sees fit. So again, I made the comment the other day, I'm not saying she's perfect, but so far I'm appreciating the fact that she's at least on kind of the right track. She's kind of going down the right road. So from that standpoint, we love that. And now Kash gets some more people that he can use to track down other things, to work on other things. You know, we all want all these files and everything else released, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but they've also got to deal with the here and now. They've got to deal with stuff like this. They've got to deal with interstate crime. They've got to deal with all the other things that are going on. Well, guess what? They've now got more agents to deal with it. So Cash gets some more people and potentially some more funding. Yay, Cash. Gotta love it. Alrighty. That is about all I've got for tonight, folks. I've enjoyed it. I know we went through a lot. We went through it kind of quick. I've actually been trying to work on putting together a stream on some of these other logical fallacies. And the reason I do it, quite frankly, again, John and Susie Normie don't always see it. But those of us in the 2A space, those of us who try to do mental battle with the media that spins this stuff, with the anti-gun politicians that spin this stuff. When we can see and recognize these fallacies, these voids in their logic, and use it to disable and disarm their bills. Well, the shooting happened. We clearly need an assault weapons ban. Look at this picture of this man holding an AR. He didn't do anything wrong with that AR. That AR was not the problem. The 15 to 17-year-olds and 20-year-old and 5 handguns, that's the problem. How about we address the problem, not the AR? Alrighty. Folks, I appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful night. I'm going to close it out tonight. We need to have a little bit of a musical closeout or something positive here to wind us down. And let's see what I can come up with. How about we just come up with our, DJT song, because, I kind of like that one. It gets me all sorts of warm and fuzzy. So be safe, be smart. We will see you next time. Again, we'll be working on a big stream of some of these gun control issues, some of the fallacies that are out there. Yeah. Good night. Bye.
Up and down, counting out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth. I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be do or dyer, a make it rider. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter. I get back up, that's what I do. I didn't soldier on this far just to lose. So take your shot, is that all you got? I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do or dyer, a make it rider. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. Oh, no one can keep me down. They didn't know, but they know now. That I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. Don't cash in that last bet. Don't throw that towel just yet. I'm a fighter.